Today, we're diving into something you're doing right this very second, something that feels so familiar, but is one of the biggest mysteries out there, your own consciousness. We're going to explore how your mind isn't just a thing that you have, but it's something your brain is actively building, moment by moment.
So let's just start right there. Just for a second, what does it actually feel like to think? Pay attention to what's going on in your head right now. Is it a bunch of separate pictures? Is it just words popping up? Or is it something else entirely?
Well, way back in 1890, the psychologist William James came up with this incredible metaphor that pretty much changed everything. He said our consciousness isn't like a chain of separate thoughts linked together. No, he said it's a stream, a constant, uninterrupted flow. And that one little idea, it was a total game changer.
Now, this beautiful metaphor, science has a name for it, of course. It's called dynamic flow. That's the technical term for the constant, ever-shifting nature of our inner experience. Basically, it's what it feels like to be you.
So here's where we're headed. We're going to start with that inner stream of yours. Then we'll figure out the rules that make it flow. After that, we get into the really wild stuff, a self-creating mind. We'll touch on how scientists are trying to model all this, and then wrap it up with what it all means for how we look at life itself.
All right, let's get into it. Your inner stream. We're going to go way beyond just thinking of it as a river and see what's actually going on under the hood.
You know, it's easy to feel like our mind is just pure chaos, right? A total jumble of random thoughts, stray memories, and weird feelings. But if you look closer, that's not what's happening at all. There's actually a surprising amount of order to the whole thing.
And you see this directed flow all the time, you just don't think about it. Like when you scan a room, your eyes aren't just darting around randomly. They're following a path. When you think back on a memory, it doesn't just appear, it unfolds like a little movie. Or when you're planning your day, you're literally building a future sequence in your head. See? This is not chaos. This is a highly directed process.
Okay, so if it's not random, then what are the rules? What's guiding this stream? That brings us right to our next stop, the principles of coherence and connection.
So here's the absolute #1 rule. Nothing in your mind ever just appears out of nowhere. Every single thought, every feeling, every perception you're having in this instant grew directly and logically out of the one you had a moment before. It's all connected.
Let me give you a super simple example. Imagine you're walking down the street and you see a familiar face. That one little perception sets off a whole chain reaction, right? You instantly remember their name, maybe a memory you share pops into your head, you feel some kind of emotion, and then you decide to say hello. You see that? Each step just flows so naturally from the one before it. And this just perfectly shows the huge shift in thinking. The old way of looking at it, the static view, was that consciousness is like a photo album, just a bunch of separate snapshots. But this dynamic flow idea sees it as a movie, a continuous, interconnected story that's always unfolding. It's not a thing you possess, it's a process that you are.
Okay, hold on, because this is where it gets really, really cool. We know the stream flows in an orderly way, but what's pushing it? What is the engine making it all happen? This brings us to a truly mind-bending idea, this self-creating mind.
So the idea here is something called an autopoetic system. It comes from the Greek words for self-creation, and it means a system that is constantly, actively building and rebuilding itself. It's not just sitting there reacting to things. It's generating its own existence, from moment to moment. Yeah, just let that sink in for a second. Your consciousness is an autopoetic system. What that means is your mind isn't some passive sponge soaking up the world. It is actively, constantly remaking itself. The you of right now is busy building the you of the next second, based on everything that just happened.
I mean, that's a wild idea, right? But how on earth do you even begin to study something like that? How do you measure a self-creating stream of consciousness? Well, let's take a look at how scientists are trying to turn this theory into actual data.
And they're really coming at it from all angles. You've got cognitive models trying to figure out how information gets passed around the brain. They're literally measuring the energy it costs to think. And some are even using seriously complex math, like dynamical systems theory, to try and map the actual patterns of the flow itself.
And get this, all of this thinking, this constant, coherent flow, it has a very real physical cost. It turns out that keeping your stream of consciousness going is one of the most energy-hungry things your body does. It burns a massive amount of metabolic fuel just to keep your inner world running.
Okay, So let's pull all these ideas together. What's the big takeaway here? What does all this mean for how we think about, well, ourselves? Here it is, the main idea. You are not a fixed thing. Your conscious life is not some static state of being. You are an ongoing, orderly process of constant self-creation. Think about that. The you that existed 1 second ago literally built the you that is listening to this right now.
And so that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If your mind is a process, not a product, if it's constantly rebuilding itself from what just happened, then who are you, really, in this very moment? You're not the finished painting. You are the act of painting itself. You are the flow.